Hold on. Did that do it? Did that do it there? Let's find out. That's for recording. That's literally it? Okay, well that's annoying. That's very annoying. So, here, we're 4 minutes in. It's 2 streams in a row with technical difficulties. Hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to my garbage stream where the mic doesn't work because you know why? There's a little box. There's a tiny little box under my microphone, and I was thinking, oh well, geez, you know, it's the bar's going, the app's working. Clearly, it's not my mic that's broken. Clearly, it's OBS. There's a teeny tiny little box here under Advanced Audio Properties that was marked off, and therefore it just wasn't transmitting the audio. Bestie, I didn't doubt you. I don't know. Everything looked fine on my end. The odds were not in your favor. This really throws a damper in things. But frankly, at this point, I'm just gonna go back to bed. Yeah, let's just go back to bed, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's been a great stream. Appreciate everyone coming out. It's been a wild ride. I'm exhausted. Wow, that really that took it out of me. Nah, we're good. I don't know why. That happened. OBS is actively sabotaging me, which is fine. You know, I deserve it. Let's be real. I want to say, I don't know why, it might be a lingering residual setting, because I know I was messing with the microphone settings in my last stream to make sure that I could record audio tracks and omit others. However, I was not doing that on this computer. So that's what's throwing me for a loop here, is that I definitely wasn't using this device, and somehow the audio tracks were still messed with. I never touched the audio tracks on this device, so I got nothing. I don't know why it did that. I even it was still set to the same microphone. It was just the audio track it wanted to transmit just didn't exist anymore. It just got rid of it. But hey, you know what? You win some, you lose some. On the bright side, I do have chat in OBS. It's just sitting here. Maybe that has something to do with it. So I don't have to keep YouTube open anymore. So hopefully that translates to a cleaner stream, less resources going to Firefox, just sitting there being open for YouTube chat. But yeah, hey, hello everyone. For me, that's about the 4th time I've said that. That's about the 2nd for y'all. Let's, we're already shooting the shit here. I've already shot the bed. So let's just hop into things here, right? We're gonna be talking about chapters 14 and 15 of the old book. The old book. This feels so boring. This feels so calm compared to Saturday's stream. Saturday's stream was just nothing but a train wreck. And because I've been working with the recordings of the stream, I've just been thinking about nothing but how bad that stream was. Not that this has been going any better. Definitely not a strong showing. But the fact that the model is working and that my computer isn't blowing up and I don't have to record anything, this is pretty good. It's not bad. I do have to, I got the costumes. I got to fuss with these. That's not so bad. Seeing that the PNG tuber is working though, it's pretty good. But that aside, let's dive into things here. We're in chapter 14. Let me just move my mic aside. We're in chapter 14 here. Teal has just finished talking to the academic. She's exited the library, And at this point, she's kind of just milling around the school, the campus, the university, whatever you want to call it. She's just hanging out. She's being a little perturbed. And she's kind of just hanging out, talking to Lacrimosa in this starting bit. Something I notice here is that her mood is correct, right? She's angry, she's upset. Her tirade here is a little unfocused. I mentioned here at the end of the first paragraph, like, she says she's muttering to Lacrimosa, right? But we don't get a good sense of like where this later tirade is going, especially when her thoughts careen into things. It's just pulling in a lot of different directions at once. And because she's just kind of ranting, we don't have a really good sense of where she's going physically, of where she's headed, of what she's doing. Which isn't like the end of the world, but it's just something worth note that I like at this point. I don't really understand where she is in the school relative to anything. Not that we've had a great idea, right? We just know she's in a school. We know she's in a school. There we go. And we don't have a great idea of what the school is like or what its layout is, which is okay because it's meant to be kind of nebulous. We don't need a map of the place, right? That'd be silly. Although that would make good merch. And she's going along. I don't know. She just seems like she's supposed to be kind of lost, but I too, as a reader, am lost, which maybe isn't great. There's two directions here that I note. That if her little rant here, right? She's basically just chewing out the academic behind their back. And path number one, if she is talking to herself, she would then be speaking in Elvish, right? She'd be having this little Elvish anger, frustration moment, which is fine. That's cool. Just like if that's the case, then that's what she's doing. However, if she is speaking to Lacrimosa, and now that I'm reading this again, I see there is a lot more mention of like she says this to Lacrimosa. She physically is touching their lantern, the lantern, in a hushed tone to her insectoid companion. Right, so like clearly I wasn't entirely out of step here with making it apparent who she's talking to, but like if I missed that, and I've read this chapter many times, then it should be more apparent going forward. Like make it clear who she's talking to. If she's going to be talking to Lacrimosa isn't just hanging out at her side, right? Like Teal's gonna bring the lantern out, even if she's just holding it, even if she's holding it like rugby style, like she's just carrying it, she's kind of vamping around and just holding the lantern angrily, then cool, that's fine, she can do that, but spell it out, right? Let's make it clear who she's talking to here. There's really no how do I want to put this? She has her little thing, right? She has her little thing, and then she basically stops to have a pout. She has a pout, and she kind of sees her surroundings here. But we really need to incorporate this better. Her observations of her surroundings here just need to be folded in to the overall narrative, right? It feels pretty clunky right now that there's this I'm angry, I'm gonna stop, wait, where am I, what am I looking at, what am I doing? If we can just tie those all together, if we can mix them all into one cohesive segment, then it'll end up reading a lot better going forward. Because instead of having just like, okay, bip, 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 three separate things, we can make a harmonious piece, a thread that ties the story together instead of having all of these disparate parts laying on top of one another. We don't really get a good sense. Like, I have written here, right, and I'm kind of struggling here because of the way I've written it, that I need to envelop the observations into her tantrum, right? And that's what I mean by incorporating a better flow. But we also, paradoxically, need to give a beat to Teal here to dwell on herself and to really introspect. We don't really get a good sense of how she's feeling. We get actions, we get thoughts of that like hint at what she's feeling, but we don't necessarily talk about it. And at this point in the story, we really need to exemplify that Teal's coming to terms. She's not coming to terms, she's sort of just realizing it. Like, dang, I'm lost. Dang, I came here hoping to find some answers, and now I'm kind of stuck here, and I don't really know what to do. Right? That's what the next few chapters are, is Teal goes around and doesn't know what to do. Story of my life. Story of my life for the past, well, I dare not say how long. Too long, that's for sure. But just touching base on how Teal's feeling here, what she's thinking would do a lot better rather than just having all these observations on, she notices the windows, the light. Not that I don't like any of these points, like the descriptions of the environment are good. But that's not really what's important here, right? We need to be talking about what's important, and what's important is how Teal's feeling. On another note, right, this isn't written down, but I did say it earlier. We don't have a great sense of direction. But I just said, oh, the setting is described well. And those are two separate points. I want to make that apparent, that those are two separate ideas. The setting can be built properly, but if Teal isn't moving through it in a cohesive manner, then it still doesn't really make sense. And by that I mean, like, I don't know where Teal is situated in this environment. We can have her walking down hallways and noticing all sorts of things. That's great. But as to like her trajectory, her path forward doesn't really make sense. Like, is she turning down a hallway? Is she in a vestibule? Is she in a like a gallery? Is she in a foyer? Is she in a chamber? I don't know. There's all sorts of things. Are there stairs? Has she gone upstairs? Has she gone downstairs? I don't know. Right? We don't get a good sense of like where she is. And even just to mention that, one of those things, right? She turns left down a hallway. Great, bing, right? We've got it in our minds. She was in a space and then she turned left down a hallway. That's already much more concrete than what's going on here, right? She rounds corners. Cool, great. That could mean anything. Thanks for coming out. She ends up, right? Rant over. She ends up, she's walking in this nebulous space and she ends up in this kind of weird alcove at the end of a hallway. So cool. We have like an end space, right? The end of a hallway. Fine. I gotta fix how on earth she gets over there. There's very little flow here. She enters this new space. She kind of looks around. She's a little tired. She wants to rest. It's not her fault. It's my fault. Usually is my fault, to be honest. She does a poor job conveying how she's entering this room. Once again, she has very little direction. She kind of just happens upon this room and then goes, okay, a room. And we're drip fed what the room looks like, what this little alcove is. It leads to a very inelegant design. My notes literally say, do it better, right? Because there's not really a great way to fix this. Teal just needs to be, I think this goes hand in hand with her just having a better direction coming into this environment and observing it, walking into it, walking past things, put her in this space rather than just having her be a weird, omnipotent being observing it, right? She has a physical body. She needs to inhabit space within this space. Funny how that works. Once again, not that I dislike any of the descriptions here or any of the things she does, right? Like, Teal is tired. She wants to find a seat. Great. She can do that. We can talk about how the seat looks. That's fine. But how did she get to the seat? Where is the seat into this room? Where are the windows that are in this room that apparently she's sitting near because she can see outside, right? Like, even just having her touch things or turn to look at a thing as she walks past it would do wonders here. But as it stands, she kind of just enters the alcove, and that's not... It's serviceable, for sure, and that's why these things aren't like the biggest concern in the world. It's serviceable, but it could be done better, and that's what it comes down to. So just do it in the better. If you do it in the better. Do it in the better. Do it better in the future. Future me. There we go. We got there. So Teal has a little sit, right? As I just said, she has a little sit. She has a little rest. That's cool. That can stay. That's a good beat here. It literally grounds her in the scene. But we need to do a better job conveying her listlessness, that she's getting kind of tired, that she's slowly understanding that she's kind of lost and doesn't really know what she's doing. She's drowsy, and then we can roll that into the next beat where the poet shows up. I just read in chat, she's cranky, right? And I wouldn't say she's cranky yet, but she's getting there. She's sort of on the verge of that feeling you get at the end of a long day where you just want to go home and rest, right? She's like at that point, but she's not at the point where she's about to snap at somebody for, for ruining her evening. But she gets there, right? She crosses that line in this chapter. She gets into the cranky zone very shortly. But before she gets cranky, we need to describe that she's just tired. She's put out. She really just wants to sit for a minute and kind of readjust, redirect herself into a proper path. So in doing this, when the poet does show up, the poet is a lot more of a bother. And hey, can you guess who's going to push her over the crankiness threshold? I wonder who. It's this jerk who shows up. We need to do a better job here. This is just like an overall how to make the poet appear better, right? That's what we can call the segment. How to make the poet appear better. And we don't make the poet appear better. We just have Teal be like a little more ticked off. And another aspect of that is having her have this delayed reaction. We can incorporate her fatigue by having her senses slow to uptake, right? The poet can come in. Teal's kind of, just staring out the window, and it isn't until after people have risen to leave that she really clues in, like, oh, people are leaving. That's kind of weird. I wonder why. Who's this new person? I didn't see them enter the room. What's going on? They've got a funny crate. What are they doing? This is crazy, right? Teal's just a little bit out of it, and we can add a small delay to her reactions, to her uptake, to better convey that. So that once this first poem, right, and I'm going to red spiraling lights here, warning, there's a lot of poetry in this chapter. If you couldn't tell by the title, there's going to be a lot of poetry in the chapter titled The Poet. Surprise. So what I'm trying to say is by the time this first poem gets here, it really is just a slap in the face to both the reader and to Teal, who are just hit with a brick of bad poetry right front and center. But even still after that poem, Teal reels from it a little bit and just like, okay, whoa, did I really just hear that? And into the second poem we go, right? We get this natural flow of Teal slowly adjusting. Teal's coming out of the lethargy zone and entering the, oh, I'm cranky now. This is horrendous. I don't want to deal with this zone. That said, right, like I was just saying, the poet really lacks presence upon their arrival. They put down this crate and then they start saying their poems. Cool. What, like, that checks out, but we don't get a sense of who they are. They're meant to be carrying this huge tome of papers, this huge book that contains all of their poetry that they're reading from. There's not really a great mention of any of that. There's not really any mention of what the poet looks like, what they're wearing, what kind of individual they might be, right? Are they nerdy? Are they stuck up? Do they have the air of, an aristocrat, like a jazz lounge poet? Or is this, a Midwestern shut-in kind of poet? It's just, they don't know any better because they've never read any other poetry. I don't know, right? And that can go either way, but I haven't described the poet at all to make that kind of idea present. And not that I want to pigeonhole it in any one direction, like, to that much of an extreme, but the poet should have a being to them. They really don't have they're just nebulous. Like a lot of the descriptions of where Teal is, where she's moving, the poet here is also just a nebulous thing that needs to be grounded. So they start reading some poems, and it's not really okay. It's actually pretty bad. Their poems are bad, and that's the thing with this chapter, is that the poet's poems are pretty garbage, and they also might be plagiarized. Teal, who we've just said is not in the best of moods, she gets up and she accosts them a little bit. She basically says something along the line of, hey, your poems suck. Your poems are stinky. Could you maybe stop? No one here is having a good time. In fact, I think everyone here is presently having a bad time because you are here saying poems that aren't good. No one asked you to bring poetry in this, right? And the poet is obviously pretty defensive about that. Nobody likes being told that them being here is not good, right? No one wants to hear that their present existence is annoying. Unless, I don't know, I guess you could be into that. No judgment. But the poet takes it pretty personally. That said, Teal comes off really energetic. She really just stands up in this big show of bravado to attempt to put down the poet. Side note warning. This chapter has a lot of Teal kind of just being pretty mean, but she's totally justified in doing it. Teal spends this entire chapter just being basically pretty rude. But she's totally in the right. So she gets away from it. Away with it, pardon me. She's essentially bullying the poet because the poet has no sense of common sense. The poet has no common sense of, like, no, they don't understand the social situation. Teal's like, okay, well, let me show you the social situation, idiot. If you're going to be a jerk to everyone, I'm going to be a jerk to you. But that said, she comes off way too strong, right? We were just talking about how listless, how tired, how fatigued she is. And then all of a sudden she stands up and she is just ready for a fight. She's ready for a rap battle. And I don't mind that she's ready, but we just talked about, she's tired. She's going to grumble. She's going to begrudgingly get into this. She's probably going to accost the poet from her chair, slouched like the degenerate she is in this circumstance. She's probably just going to groan really loudly and just be like, buddy, do you have to do this right now? Some of us could just use a little bit of a break. To which the poet is going to, yammer like, oh, poetry is good at all times of the day. There's never a bad time for poetry, honey. And that's as Teal's anger, as her crankiness flares up, that's when she's like, okay, well, regrettably, I have to get up and school this loser. But it's a little too much too soon. Teal basically says, your poems aren't that good. In fact, I could probably do better. Compared to your poetry, my poetry is as an elvish masterpiece. And not that line is necessarily going to stay, but wouldn't the poet find that turn of phrase? Wouldn't they find that kind of weird? Wouldn't they think that's strange for someone to say? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean, elvish masterpiece? Who are you? Why are you bringing elves into this? You know. But frankly, what they say to Teal otherwise is fine. Like, the logic holds. Teal just spends a few paragraphs here being a total dickhead, and we love that. We love that for her. I'm so proud of Teal just laying into. She just lays into the poet for being for disturbing the peace, for just ruining everyone's afternoon. And Teal comes over like, hey, I don't think you should do that. Also, you stink. Also, your poems are bad. Also, fight me, right? Teal's the hero we need, not the one we deserve. Right? Whatever. She's doing a great job. And that's fine, right? Like I just said, this is one of the few instances across the whole book where Teal is just in a bad mood. She's definitely in the right. She totally has the right to be a jerk here, and she just lets it happen. She just is kind of mean. And that's part of Teal's personality we haven't gotten to see until this moment, right? And this is a great chapter for it, that we see that Teal is perfectly capable of being charismatic to get what she wants. She's charming, right? She can be nice. She can be kind, right? She can be like genuinely nice to people. We see that in some minor aspects, but we get more into it in a few chapters, and then going forward we see that, oh yeah, Teal's actually kind of just is nice to people when they're nice to her. But in this chapter we see that when people are actively malicious towards Teal, then Teal's willing to step up to the plate. Teal's ready to say like, all right, I'm sick of this. It's time for me. The gloves are off. I'm just gonna start being really mean. I'm gonna use my charisma. I'm gonna use my wit. I'm gonna use my like everything I got, because I'm just a silly little half elf, and I'm just gonna be really mean to you. I'm just gonna be mean to you because that's what you do to nasty people. You bully them. Nasty people get bullied. Remember that. That's a life lesson. So Teal lets them have it. Teal, actively like insults their poetry. And, we get to see other little hints of Teal here, right? We get to see that she's maybe not arrogant, but confident in herself in some aspects, where she's like, oh, right? The poet here is like, oh, what would you know about poetry? You're just some know-it-all. You're some literature student. And Teal has enough wherewithal to back that up. She's like, okay, you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? Fine, let's do this. Here's a poem that I whipped off the top of my head. What are you going to do about it? Poem, crate boy, This is a good transition, right, to the secondary point, that Teal is kind of being cocky. Why is she being cocky? Why is she confident in her poetry? If she's an amnesiac, she should really be in a state of confusion? No, maybe not confusion. Just sort of uncertainty, right? In my mind, she needs to have a drive here. And that's something that's missing from this segment, that she doesn't really have a drive. She doesn't really know why she feels that their poetry, pardon my accidental portmanteau, that's very apt. why their poetry is so poor. And we need to mix this into things. Why does Teal think this? Why is she confident that she knows poetry better than this schmuck? What's going on? What's going on in her head there? And I don't really have like any great answers right now, because this is something that's just gonna have to be sussed out in the second draft. That she's gonna have to have this like, ooh, this is bad poetry. But why is it bad poetry? Why do I know poetry? Why is this just something that's in my head? Like, dang, and this is going to be something that crops up again and again, like especially as we get into part 3. Teal's going to have these moments of, hey, why do I remember this but not my sister? Why do I remember poems but not the face of my mother? Little things like that. You're like, why is this thing stuck in here when I would much rather have any other important memory in my mind? Regardless, she rolls with it, right? She's going to have to roll with it. Her drive needs to be more here than just, I'm annoyed with her, with the poet, sorry. She needs to have something more tangible in herself, that she feels, that she knows that their poetry is poor, and that Teal, as a connoisseur, let's say, like, she doesn't really know, but that's why she knows poetry so well, because she really likes it, because she's a big nerd. But as a connoisseur, she part of her is like, ooh, this is icky. Ooh, I could do better. And then when she goes to do better, it just kind of flows out of her, because that's how trained, how well versed she is in poetry, that she can just, oh yeah, this is a thing, right? This is, and she wouldn't be thinking this, unfortunately, but the reasoning behind it is because it would be a thing that her family would do. It's a thing in her culture to just, to be sitting around and have a poem ready, or to trade verses as like a game, just elvish things. But I digress. Teal has this limerick. The poet is pretty upset about that. The fact that she just whipped up a limerick out of nowhere. And essentially, the two fall into this back and forth where they have a rap battle, a pretty epic rap battle of poetry. Nah, it doesn't work so well. Is that channel still around? I kind of hope it isn't, but I have a feeling it is. Anyways, they have a bit of a rap battle. The back and forth here is pretty solid, honestly. Like, I read through this. Most of this middle section is just poems that they trade back and forth. That Teal's just having a great time doing this. But there's not really a lot here that I would parse or dissect. There's some really fun phrasing here, like this first sentence of this paragraph. Like, not only are there poems here, but the narration itself gets a little more poetic in this chapter. So these are notes here just saying, hey, future me, if you can keep those, do it. They're pretty good. You did something right for a change. Me is the present me, the intermediary between past me and future me. I'm letting future me know past me did something well. Did that make sense? Let's just move on. I make a comment here that throughout all of this, there's no mention of what the other students are doing. There's supposed to be other people in this alcove, the ones who, were maybe a little too sheepish or didn't make it in time to leave in a socially respectable manner, or those who are just too stubborn to leave. What are they doing? Are they just hanging out? Are they eating? Are they playing games? Are they trying to hide? Are they plugging their ears? I don't know. Are they looking back and forth like a tennis match? Are they rooting for Teal? Are they booing the poet? We don't know. It could literally be anything. But going forward, they should be here. There should be the other people. That, or this is just a weird ghostly alcove that the poet goes to, which really doesn't vibe with their mantra at all. But Yeah, so that, like, that wouldn't be the case. So there's going to be people here, and we should talk about them. We should know what they're doing, even if it's just en masse. Like, we don't have to have a moniker or anything for the other students. They can just be here, and they can have reactions, or they can be doing things, or Teal can just see them, like, looking uncomfortable, right? Anything. As long as we mention there's life here. We could instead, right, keep this sort of weird energy, the fact that there are people here but they're just not doing anything, or rather that Teal doesn't perceive them doing anything, because we could ham up the notion that there's this intense situation, right? Teal is at odds with the poet. She is engaged in a lyrical duel with them, and thus she shut out the rest of the world. Teal is just like, nope, this is our little dual bubble. Everything outside of it doesn't matter to me. And if that's the case, right, that's a fun idea. We can go with that, but it just needs mentioning. We need to build the scene around that idea that Teal is completely ignorant to what's going on around her because she's so invested in her poetry. And that's cool. That's fine. You know, that paints her as a driven individual, fixated on the task at hand, right? And that's cool. I have here, just as like an additional layer to that this sort of sensation for her might remind her of dueling, literal, well, for her it would be magical dueling. And if that's the case, then this would be a good moment to have a beat where Teal might remember things. Teal might tie moment A to moment B and go, oh yeah, wait, this is familiar. This reminds me of something, huh? And we can have a little Teal memory moment here. Not that this needs to be done. These are all just hypothetical ideas. But it could make the scene a little more interesting. Unfortunately for everyone, unfortunately for me, I guess fortunately for me too, to be honest, I'm going to skip over all the poems, which is like 90% of the chapter. Now, most of the chapter is Teal and the poet trading verses, right? And you can read them at your leisure. Ideally, you've already read them. That's why you're here. But I know that's why no one's here, is because no one wants to read boring poetry. But yeah, they have a back and forth. Essentially, the poet calls her out, like, oh, that was lucky. Do it again. And Teal's like, all right, I can do this all day, idiot. She even calls out what style of poetry she's using, which once again might weird out the poet, who's kind of sitting around like, what do you mean? What are these styles you're talking about? You creep? You pointy-eared creep? What's with your weird pointy-eared poetry? I digress. They have a back and forth. They trade verses over and over again. And it comes to a crux where with each poem, Teal is grasping at stronger language, and she's essentially winning this tug of war, and inversely the poet is slipping. Their verses get a little weaker and weaker as things go along until they come to a point where without anything left to say, the poet basically just straight up insults her. They just straight up release a diss track to tarnish Teal's name. And whatever, that's fine, but like, Teal feels pretty offended by this. She's of the mind that one shouldn't attack the other's personhood. Sort of like if there's a debate, right? When debating, it's taboo to make commentary on the other individual as a being, right? To say like, oh, my opponent's views are bad because they're stupid, right? That's not good debate. Similarly, when you just insult the other person in a poetry contest. Even if the bars are hot, that's not good poetry, right? So Teal takes kind of a stab at them with this constructed sonnet. And I don't like the sonnet. The sonnet took me weeks to write. I'm bad, mostly. Mostly that's the reason I'm bad, and sonnets are hard. A lot of the other poems I'm quite pleased with. Even the ones where the poet, right? I had to write bad poems for the poet, and even those ones I think are okay. But I get to the sonnet, I get to Teal's final sonnet here, and it just doesn't feel right. Maybe that's because it's a sonnet and because it's Shakespearean, and Shakespearean sonnets just blah, blah. Blah. That's the only one I have where my tongue's sticking out. I don't know, something about it. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I like what it's getting at. Essentially, the sonnet is saying, among all these poems, yours were pretty trash and mine were good. And between us, you're an idiot, and I'm basically a beautiful, stunning bird, right? Yeah, they call them a peacock, a glabrous gray peacock, which, for a peacock, that sucks. But I don't know. The sonnet definitely needs reworking. I don't want to touch it because it's a sonnet and it took me so long. So I'm kind of torn there. The poet throws together an impromptu failed poem, and Teal calls him out, right? This is how the poetry contest comes to an end. The poet is just unwilling to concede, and Teal just comes up and goes, "Come on, dude, that's not a poem. You're not even trying, you piece of crap. At least humor me with a verse. What's this? What is this garbage?" Right? She just calls him out, and the poet's the poet essentially reveals their philosophy here, that given enough time and given enough attempts, they'll hit upon the idea of a masterpiece, right? They'll come up with something that's the most splendid poetry ever versified. I don't know if versified is a word, but that'll work well for my running gag. The running gag I have where I don't know words. Because the poet in this sense is of the mind that a poem doesn't need to be constructed. It doesn't need to be hewn. It'll just happen, right? And much as one can drop dollops of paint on a canvas and eventually make art, eventually the paint will splash out in a pleasing manner. So too can they stitch words together until they fit together in a pleasing way, until poetry is conceived. It's just birthed from the entropy, rather than something that's constructed lovingly from an intention, right? And they don't say any of this, but it's inferred that that's kind of what they mean. I'll just keep trying until they make a masterpiece, and then I'll show you, right? That's basically what they say. And Teal just goes, "That's stupid. That's dumb." Which is where we come to these last points here, and we're almost done chapter 14. If you take out the poems, if you take out the meat of the chapter, it turns out the chapter's pretty short. So that's kind of funny. The ending is nicely balanced between the two combatants, between the two parties here. It gives the poet time to reveal their kind of their wisdom, their mantra here. But Teal's departure at the end is like pretty poorly motivated. It also lacks clarity. Oh, sorry, it isn't poorly motivated. I was wondering what. Yeah, much like how she came into the scene, she leaves the scene poorly too. She just like, it's not sure where she goes. She exits the other side of the alcove. Okay, where is that? If I knew where you were, if the readers knew where you were at the start, then we'd know where you're leaving to, but I don't know. I don't know where you've been this whole time. You sat in a chair for a minute, I think. You sat by a window, I think. We gotta nail this stuff down. We gotta figure out where Teal is so that when she enters and when she leaves, it makes sense. There's clarity to it. Once again, we fail to address how Teal's eepy. Teal's tired. And as she leaves, we really need to just tack on a moment of her just feeling exhausted. Like, wow, that took a lot out of me. Like, so much mental fortitude, so much mental energy was spent just talking to this nonsense spewer. Why did I do that? Oh yeah, it was pride, because I felt like I needed to prove myself, because I didn't want this jerk ruining poetry, of making a bad name for something that I feel is very important, right? And that's why she does it. She doesn't really know in the moment. She can maybe figure that out here at the end, but she should be tired. She should be feeling pretty exhausted, especially after she puts on this brave face. She puts on like this big scowl of like, fine, I'll just leave, you jerk. Like, I don't have to stand here and put up with this. Your poems are bad, and you're bad, and your ideas are bad, so I'm gonna leave. And she can maybe like leave the room and just, you know, her brave face melts, and she's just like, oh man, that was exhausting. I didn't even get to sit. And rest. Which sucks. Like, we've all been there where we just want to rest and something comes up. Oh, I just want to sit after a long day, and oh, somebody needs help. Fine. Ugh, okay, I'll go do the thing. Teal has to keep pressing onward. She can't rest right now. She has, in these last paragraphs here, she ruminates on what it is that the poet expunged, which isn't bad, but it's a little too sharp. It feels forced on the reader. Like I said, they're not bad thoughts. Essentially, Teal is trying to internalize what the poet just said. I apologize if you can hear growling outside. It sounds like my dog is playing, which is cute and good, and I'm happy for her, but I wish she would do it a little quieter and away from my window. But alas, these last couple of paragraphs, couple of lines here is Teal internalizing what the poet said, and she's of the opinion that sure, you could flounder around and gush out all the words you want, but does it make a good, like, even if you make a good poem, is it worth it? Is it a good poem when all you did was haphazardly say different words, right? Like there is a non-zero chance for a baby's first words to be the entirety of Hamlet. Does that make it amazing, or is it just random chance? I don't know. Is it pretty crazy? Yeah, that's pretty nuts. But it could happen. It could happen. Sorry, I'm looking at the stream. I'm looking at my stream recording. You can't stop my ADD. I'm looking at the stream recording, and I'm just so pleased with how responsive it is. This is so nice compared to Saturday's stream. Saturday's stream was such a shit show. This is so nice. I can see that it's working, and that's really delightful. What was I saying? Babies? Hamlet? You know what? Sorry. I'm gonna stay on this. We're gonna be talking for a little while longer, anyways. We've got to do chapter 15, but chapter 15 is small, so bear with me. The worst part is Robin and I did a test of that stream, and during the test, PNG Tuber was like, "Hey, I'm good. I'm a funny guy. We're all friends." And it was just something the day of. I cannot tell you why. PNG Tuber just did not want to function responsively. It was just like, no, I'm going to have at least a second delay. A mystery. As always, PNG Tuber, to the author, if you ever see these, thank you for your wonderful software. This is a free piece of software that I'm pretty sure the developer, they're like an independent developer. I should really link to their page or whatever. Maybe I will when I get more than 2 viewers. But yeah, they basically do this all for free. And so like I can't complain at all. The product works perfectly well. It does everything I could want. So when it F's up like that, it's like, okay, funny little indie software. I don't know why you did that. You probably don't know either. So here we are, right? In a world where like my test stream goes perfectly and then the real stream just falls out of bed. Back to the point at hand. Let's get back on topic here. So Teal, she's essentially digesting what the poet said. Geez, how many times have I tried to restate this point? She is trying to digest this point, and it really just comes off as like, hey reader, hello reader, this is what, like, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. It's not Teal. Don't look at the Teal. This definitely isn't me, the narrator, having like weird observations here on my own writing, right? It definitely comes off that way when I read it, but like Teal should be having these thoughts. These are things she's concerned with regarding the poet and their philosophy. But the presentation of these ideas is just really poor. It's just very forced upon the reader. She can just be talking to Lacrimosa, right? This is the easiest fix in the world. She came into the chapter talking to Lacrimosa. She can go out of the chapter talking to Lacrimosa. Because we need, in this segment here where Teal's at the university, her bond with Lacrimosa is going to get a lot stronger, right? That's a thing going throughout this book, that Teal had this moment, haha, we're companions, but she actually starts becoming friends with the bug because she's a little weirdo. It also, haha, empathy or whatever. So she can just be talking to Lacrimosa here. She can pose these questions to Lacrimosa and just get radio silence from a bug. It would be really funny if Lacrimosa was a cricket, because then they could do the cricket chirp whenever Teal posed rhetorical questions to them. I basically said both points at once, right? This is a great beat for Teal to talk to Lacrimosa and for them to build their relationship. Teal can just totally vent to Lacrimosa here at the end of the chapter, like, man, what the crap was that? That sucked. What's this moron mean by just flubbing out poetry until you hit the mark? That's not how poetry works, right? And she can just have this moment where Lacrimosa doesn't say anything, but they kind of just flutter around, and she just, classic, I can't believe I'm talking to a bug. And that can be how the chapter ends, right? Teal just has her little moment, and she keeps going on her way. Doing that would work a lot better than having this ham-fisted rhetoric. Yeah, and that's the end of chapter 14. That's where it stops. Teal's like on her way out, and she has these thoughts, and then the chapter ends. Right? Not like, it's kind of clunky too. So having her talk to Lacrimosa here and then carry on, the more I say it, the better it sounds. That should really be how it works. We're just gonna stumble right into chapter 15 here. We've been yapping for about an hour. A little under an hour if you exclude the technical difficulties. So we're just gonna keep on trucking. If we run out of time, we run out of time. If we do some drawing, we do some drawing. It is what it is. Hopefully, everything's good. So we'll see. But yeah, chapter 15 here, we move into the architect. Teal traverses in this direction. Once again, we're kind of like lost a little bit. In this sense, it makes a little, I don't know if it makes more sense, but it's easier to imagine for me. Not that that's like the be all end all, but maybe I just have like a better mental picture of this segment rather than the last one. All that said, Teal enters this next segment. She's down this hallway, and she's having these they're not quite hallucinations yet, but she's having these intrusive thoughts of like, uh-oh, I don't feel good. This hallway kind of seems like it maybe goes on forever. What are these repeating elements? Why do these sconces just... Are they identical? Are these windows the same? What's going on with the light in here, right? She's having these little nuggets of, uh-oh, something's not right here. Is it this space or is it me? And she definitely doesn't even consider that it might be her at this point. This is like one of the very first few instances of, uh-oh, Teal might be going a little crazy. And we love that for her. But I think going forward, we can do a lot more here of injecting horror. Just a very subtle amount of horror into this scene. We really just touch upon it, like, okay, haha, the weird things. There's an eerie atmosphere. Why does the hallway feel like it's getting longer? Haha, it's cursed. She doesn't really take note of any of this, and honestly, that's fine. Like for how little I talk about it, it's fine. But going forward, there should really be a bigger sense of Teal, like, oh no, the hallway is never ending. And like maybe she even stops and turns around and looks behind her. And uh-oh, the hallway behind her is like, I don't think I can go back that way. Uh-oh. What's with all these doors? What's with all these sconces, you know? Just like really stews there in a moment of like, oh no, I think I fell into the back rooms or something. I think I wandered out of bounds on the map and I'm in the skybox. You know, something like that sort of effect. Because yeah, like this next point suggests, we don't really get a sense, we don't really allow Teal to sink into the scene. She really just goes, okay, that's weird, and then just moves on with her life. Not that the moving on with her life part is bad, but there's no stick. There's nothing to stick here. There's no friction, which is really disappointing to me because this is, like I said, one of the first instances of her encountering weird horror stuff, like very overtly weird horror stuff, and just kind of going, okay, haha, this place is funny. And I need that to be more of a thing because as she goes along, this keeps happening, and it eventually dawns on her like, oh, it's not the world. Maybe it's me. Maybe these weird things keep happening because it's me. And like honestly, it's not until pretty late in the book that she starts having that thought, and she starts actively trying to just like ignore her hallucinations. But right now, we can just have a little taste, a little amuse-bouche of some horror. Just num 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 num. Delicious. Thank you. What's next? Can I have the real appetizer now? Because I'm hungry. At least that's the idea. Speaking of hungry, if you can't tell, I'm hungry. I don't know what's for dinner. I hope it's something tasty. Oh, I know what's for dinner. It's meatloaf. We're going to have meatloaf tonight. That's fun. Meatloaf and potatoes. And corn. I think it's the last corn of the season. Because it's getting pretty cool. Anyways, I shouldn't go on about corn. Let me get focused again. Let me get focused. Teal's in this hallway. She's having a bit of a horror moment. We need to increase that horror moment because I think that'll read better going forward. Additionally, like if that's going to happen, then we need Teal to kind of sink into the horror. But ideally, this should remain a very small beat. This should remain like a bip. Teal has a little moment, and then she's out of it, right? She snaps out of it. Quite literally, she's like, oh, ha, that was weird. I'm going to put that out of my mind. I'm going to compartmentalize that away, very far away, so I don't think about it ever again. Thank you. Bye-bye. She continues down the hallway. She has a bit of a moment. She happens upon these doors, right? And that's kind of what I'm thinking will bring her out of the horror, because she sees this, essentially what happens is she sees this repeating pattern and she just can't get it out of her head that this pattern, these doors on her right, these windows on her left, these sconces, the wallpaper, the ceiling, it's all just repeating ad nauseum into infinity, right? And that's kind of what sets her off, is she's like, uh-oh, Am I falling into the void here? Oh no. And I want it to be what pulls her out is that she sees one of these doors up ahead is actually open. You know, the pattern is broken. One of these doors is open. Thank goodness. Just as a physical means of returning her to reality. There's usually, throughout all of Teal's little bouts of hallucinations, there's something that snaps her back to reality, because we got a story to tell here. She's definitely going insane. She definitely ends up going pretty nuts, but we got a story to tell here. All right, I got to keep this half elf on track. I got to keep it on track until chapter 35, when she just maybe goes, she doesn't know what's going on, and neither does the reader. And honestly, that's good. That's what I'm aiming for. I want the reader to be as confused as Teal by chapter 35. That's the goal. Because then the bars come off. I'm doing all sorts of crazy gestures. You can't see. You can only see me maybe doing this. But for now, right, a little bit of insanity, sees the door, door, spell broken. I'm going to go check out that door. Because as we've mentioned, Teal's very nosy. She's definitely going to go check out the weird break in the pattern. The anomaly here. She runs over to the door. She's pretty excited to do something that isn't terrifying her. And she discovers that it's an open office. It seems as though maybe it's faculty, like a faculty office or something, right? She walks in, she sees somebody sitting at a desk whose back is towards them. And this room is just full of papers. Full of papers. They're all sorts of schematics and whatnot. They're taped up on all the furniture. They're on the walls. They're on the windows. They're hanging off the ceiling. They're on ropes. They're attached to ropes that are hung from wall to wall. They're all over the floor. They're stacked here and there. All sorts of diagrams. Point number 1, right? Teal is trying to get this person's attention. She does it, and she's very mild. Given that she's feeling a little weird, she's being nosy because she wants to break the spell of, I feel kind of weird. I feel kind of weird, and that last person I talked to really threw me off my game. So here's a new person, thank goodness. They're pretty tame attempts. She has like a weird reflection that like, oh, maybe they're just busy, but if they're busy, then why not just say so? I don't know. I just don't get why she comes in here all nervous, all kind of, ooh, hello, is someone in here? It just doesn't feel in character. It doesn't feel in character for her. She would be a little more confident. She wouldn't be balancing on trepidation. She would be, if anything, projecting what's that called? Too much etiquette. She would be trying to be too polite rather than this I'm kind of nervous vibe. Well, you know what? If you can't handle the uwu, then get out of the kitchen. This is where chefs are cooking. This is where the chefs are cooking. If you can't handle the heat, then get out of the kitchen. Ooh. That hurt a little bit to say, but hey, if it keeps the real G's in the stream, then yeah, I've already said the line. God, I hope that doesn't get clipped. My legacy for years to come. If you can't handle the ooh, then get out of the kitchen. Where was I? Right. So she's trying to get their attention, and she's just kind of doing a bad job of it. And that's like, whatever. They can be ignored, but Teal should be trying. I don't know why she's giving this half-hearted attempt. Point number 2. Teal comes into this room. We've already established Teal's nosy. Teal's whatever. Don't worry about it. Teal's curious. She's interested in things. So she sees this room full of schematics, and she's not. She has a moment where she's like, "Oh, I guess I'll look. I don't really get it. I guess I'll stop looking." Teal's gonna like bury herself in this and try to figure it out, right? Would she not? Would she not put the effort into being like, oh, these are root schematics? She wouldn't just look at one. She wouldn't just haphazardly browse what's on the wall. She would probably pick some up and go through them, right? She is indiscriminately uncaring of others' barriers, especially if they've just left things lying around. Teal's going to go through them. Teal doesn't have a great sense of like, oh, this is yours? Well, you left it out here, so Teal would be the kind of person to read somebody's diary if they left it out, right? Oh, well, it was just sitting there. It was just sitting there out in the open. What do you expect me to do? Not read it, right? It's not her fault that you left it out. It's your fault. So I don't know why she's not taking more of an interest in these schematics. It seems a little silly. I think she should still not really understand them, but she should take a better look at them. She just browses. She just scans over them right now, and that's not very Teal. Just as a final note, she's trying to get this person's attention. She's doing a poor job. Nothing really works. Maybe an idea, this could be a good spot to use some Elvish, because at this point in the book we haven't really had much Elvish going on. So why not have her try to beckon this person in Elvish to see if that gets their attention, even though she knows it probably won't. Like, maybe there's a chance just hearing a different language will spur them on. I don't even know if they actually get talking. They kind of do, right? Yeah, not quite yet. Not quite yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. So sorry, let me read this paragraph here. I'm a little lost. She's yelling at this person. They don't give her the time of day. She's basically thinking, okay, that's pretty rude. How can I get their attention? There we go. This is what I'm hung up on. She has the idea to get their attention with magic. She's like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure, I'll use some magic. I used to know spells back in the day that were pretty captivating, that were essentially the only reason you would use this spell is to kind of captivate an audience, to make a spectacle. And there's really no need. There's really no need to mention any of this, because in draft 2, right, we have she's not dumb. We have Forgetful Teal, who doesn't really know magic anymore. She's kind of forgotten. She has these vague memories of like, oh yeah, magic. Like, I definitely studied magic. Magic is a thing. She doesn't know the parameters of it, though. She doesn't understand, like, okay, I could get their attention via magic, especially not now. Not right now, 15 chapters in. She might have this notion of like, okay, wait a minute. Like, yeah, I remember wanting, like, if I wanted to make a spectacle, if I wanted to make a scene, I'd often have my dagger in hand, but I don't actually remember what I did with it. I don't actually remember the effects of what happened. We can still make, like, she has this little gag here where she's like, she thinks, oh, I'll get out my dagger. Wait a minute, why did I think I'll get out my dagger? Surely I'm not prone to armed robbery, am I? So we can keep some of that, but we need to drop this magic beat, unfortunately. It needs to be replaced with more, fuzziness, more uncertainty. And then she rolls into the idea of, well, I'll just touch a bunch of this guy's stuff. I'll just try to, maybe she picks up a piece of paper and threatens to rip it. And only then does she get the architect's attention. Teal suspects their faculty, right? They turn around, they scold her, and they scold her in a way that Teal's like, oh, wait, that's familiar. It sounds like you are a teacher. I definitely remember this. I remember getting yelled at by teachers. This feels like that moment. Right? And this is one of those weird instinctive memories that I don't think are going to get cut out. But Teal thinks they're a faculty, and that can stay. The architect can maybe be faculty. It's not really a certainty. it's like a good little beat for Teal to have an allusion to something that we as readers are informed that, oh yeah, maybe Teal was kind of, maybe she was a bit of a delinquent. Maybe she wasn't a good student. Like we know she was taught magic, right? Air quotes. She learned magic, but did she learn it well? This is one of the first hints we get that, oh, maybe she didn't. Maybe she got yelled at a lot. Maybe that's why she remembers this feeling so instinctively. So that can stay. Once again, we have a character who is revealed, who is in the scene, who's talking to Teal, who doesn't feel completely solid. In this case, I think they just need a little more. They just need a little something, like big old leather gloves, scrawny arms, maybe a big old tool belt. Maybe they've got on like a leather apron, just something to tie them together. I mentioned like, okay, cool, they've got goggles. How else are they an architect? How else can we paint this character with very broad strokes? Any of those examples. It just one of those of any of the examples I just gave. All of them are fine, but the architect just needs like a little more. Some latex gloves, maybe. I don't know. Anything. But maybe they're balding. I don't know. It could be anything. Just as long as they get a little more love. Teal, is accosted by the faculty. The architect's like, what on earth are you doing here? Are you a student? You don't look like a student. What are you doing here? And Teal immediately rolls into this idea of just BSing a thesis statement. She gives them the old rigmarole of like, yep, I'm a literature student. And then the architect takes it a step further and they go, oh, yeah, that's weird. This isn't the literature department. We're nowhere near the literature department. What are you doing over here? Because obviously they don't want Teal here. So they eventually come upon the line of logic of asking Teal, like, okay, well, if you're in literature, what is it that you're studying? And Teal, without missing a beat, is like, oh, actually, I'm working on my, what's that called? Like a master's. When you do a master's, you write a blank. What's it called? You write a big essay. And then you have to defend it. Is it just called a thesis? I don't think it's called a thesis. I think there's another word for it. I guess, well, we'll just stay with thesis for now because that's what it is in the book. And clearly, me in the past knew what the word was. Good job, me in the past. I don't get to say that very often. But Teal rolls into this idea of like, okay, I'll just BS a thesis. And that's great. That's good. That's Teal. There's a bit here where I do some foreshadowing by using this name. And that's really cute given that Teal remembers. But draft 2 Teal, I'm sorry, you don't remember. So she's got to going forward, she can be super confident on her, like, okay, yeah, I just got to BS a thesis. Once she gets to that name, she needs to be like, the account of, and like the names can still come to her. We can still have this allusion to other names she should know. But it shouldn't be so cut and dry. She needs to have a stall here of like, which names? What are names? I don't remember names, right? Teal, she should just a little bit of a struggle, just to pepper this commentary of like, hey, she doesn't actually remember. She's BSing all of this. You see these notes I've written in capital letters is because I came back and I added this afterwards. Because Teal, let me let you in on something here. Teal is she's carrying a banjo right now. She's carrying a banjo on her back and also a moth under her cloak. You're telling me the architect is just gonna let that slide? You're telling me they're just going to like completely ignore the fact that Teal is carrying a banjo and is professing to be a literature student? I don't know if I buy that, but they can still just, Teal can just pass the check. Teal can just pass the persuasion check. I think that's a funny beat. they can totally just be like, "Oh, you're a literature student carrying around a banjo," and Teal's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I love the banjo. I love it. It's one of my favorite instruments. It's kind of a hobby. Actually, that's what I minor in. I'm minoring in banjo, right? And just like sweating buckets here. The lie is falling apart at the seams, but she just passes the persuasion check, so the architect's like, whatever, I don't care. Fine. You're a literature student who plays the banjo. Sure, get out of my office." Um, I don't know. It's funny. We can definitely keep that in, but it needs addressing that, like, yeah, they really shouldn't. They should definitely, if we're going to have this scene, the architect needs to point out the banjo and go, hey, but what about that? But what about that thing you're carrying? Aren't you more of a bard? Aren't you more of a musician? Wouldn't your lie work better if you thought it out? And, this is the moment where it falls apart on Teal, like, oh, God, yeah, I am carrying a banjo. Why didn't I think of this? So that's funny. That's just something to keep in mind going forward. In the book as it is, the architect just like, whatever, they're just like, okay, sure. And they kind of just tell her, they don't really even say, get lost. They kind of just go back to ignoring her. And so Teal's like, okay, well, they didn't tell, like, I didn't get yelled at, so I'm just going to keep going back to being nosy. And that's really how she ends up getting the architect to talk to her, is by being annoyingly interested, which is very on brand for Teal. But I think she could be more annoying. Right now she's kind of just distantly like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's that? I think she should have like Powerpuff Girl levels of annoying here. Like, she's stepping on things, and she's totally aware she's doing this, right? She's trying to press their button. She's trying to get this guy to talk to her. So she's going to do little things. That's it. It's a dissertation. Thank you, Robin. Robin with the grade A distractions as always. But yeah, Teal's going to be here, like ripping pages, stepping on them, folding them, just to piss the architect off, just to get their goat. So that it makes more sense that when they kind of do snap, they do so in a way that's more meaningful. Because, to roll into the next point, they end up calling her a bothersome swallow. They end up just getting, the architect, mind you, they end up just getting really annoyed with Teal, which is good. That's what we're building towards. This is another point that somebody's called Teal a bird, right? We've been saying people got to start calling Teal a bird more often. And this wasn't scripted. This wasn't intentional. It's just another point I've had where somebody calls Teal a bird. And that's great. We need to have a beat here where Teal internalizes that, where she goes like, wait a minute, this happened again. Why do people keep calling me a bird? I'm not a bird. I'm Teal. And then, the ramifications of that statement land like a frying pan. Like, what's something that lands on people's heads? Like a hat. Hats land on people's heads. If they're worn properly. But yeah, Teal just needs to have a little moment of like, oh yeah, bird. Got it. The architect then spins off. Teal finally like breaks the architect and gets them to tell her what they're working on, because that's really what she's been wanting to do this whole time. She just wants to talk. She just wants to have a break and like, hey, what are you doing? Right? And the architect's trying to get her to leave, but Teal finally breaks them. And in their description of what they're doing, there should just be a little tinge of insanity, a little smattering of the notion that this person has been doing this for too long, right? Like if the site of their room, of their office wasn't bad enough, it didn't clue you in, this should be what clues you in. They're a little crazy. They're a little bonkers. They've been doing whatever they're doing for too long. They've been isolated for too long. They're just a little crazy. Yeah, we want to give the idea that this is the sole thing that the architect has been thinking about for a long time. They got to be a little manic. So they describe their idea, which is that they want to build a machine that does all the things for them forever. Which, like, okay, sure. That's fine. Whatever. That's their idea. Teal's reaction to this is just to go like, huh? I don't get it. Which is fine, right? Like, that's good. That's what Teal should be thinking. But we should make mention that she feels like she's missing something. Like there was some aspect of this scenario, of this plan, of this design that she's missing. Like if they're so confident, if they're so sure of what it's going to do, if they want to make this so badly, like, did I miss it? Did I miss something? What's the big deal? I don't get it. And it should slowly settle in on Teal that this, like, oh, no, I didn't miss anything. This person's just a little crazy. They're just kind of foolish. Huh. This is just a side note, right? While she's digesting this of like, yes, haha, peak efficiency. Yes, you build the machine. There's like a weird horror beat. I'm trying to find it here. Teal just stares off into the ceiling, and the ceiling does some wiggly wobbly stuff, which is okay. But we need to move this into the earlier segment where the horror is. I don't know why I come back to it again. I think because I'm trying to retread that ground and leave a little snippet, right? Another little sampling of horror. But we already had our amuse-bouche. We had it. Well, we should have it all in one go. You don't have your amuse-bouche and then have a second amuse-bouche later in the meal. You might have a cheese tasting before dessert, but you're not going to have an amuse-bouche here, right? So we got to take that out. If we're going to incorporate some weird ceiling stuff, it's got to be in the hallway when Teal's freaking out. Not that I think it's a bad idea, but it just can't be here, right? You don't got to go home, but you can't stay here, folks. Otherwise, the ending is a little hurried. Sorry, I didn't give a recap. The architect explains what their designs are for this machine that does everything for them forever. Oops. And Teal basically goes, that's weird. What will you do once you have all the free time in the world? Like, if this machine's doing everything for you, what are you going to do with yourself? And this really throws the architect for a loop. And the architect stops and they think and they go, well, I guess I'll build a machine that'll decide for me what I'm going to do. And then I'll do whatever that machine tells me to do. And because I don't have to build it, it'll be done in no time. The machine that's going to do everything for me will build the machine to tell me what to do for me. And Teal essentially thinks, that's ridiculous, I'm just going to leave. And like, it ends up being this very hurried ending, much like some of the other chapters are. We get this very rushed ending, but this is one of the instances where I think it's okay. I think it's okay for them to say something that unhinged of, I'm going to build a machine that's going to tell me what to do. And Teal's reaction is just like, okay, you do that. I'm going to leave. Because you're weirding me out a little bit. The architect basically turns around and like just stops talking with her. And they're just so excited to start on this new machine and to finish this machine that they just go back to ignoring Teal. And Teal in this instance would be super petty. Going as far as to stick her tongue out at the architect while they're turn around, or like, knock over some of their stuff. She'd throw a bit of a hissy fit, like, she wouldn't outright say, wow, that was rude, but she would react to the rudeness of just being backhanded, of being like, okay, get lost. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And the fact that she doesn't, I don't know, it just strikes me as odd. Like there's really no Tealishness to this, to these ending paragraphs. So incorporating that would do a lot to add her character into the scene. She might even say something to Lacrimosa. And yeah, like I said, the fact that this ending is pretty slapdash, like I've said in the past, the architect is a character that doesn't really need any closure, just because they're kind of rude to Teal. They're kind of just like, okay, get out of here. I've got work to do. And then they go back to work and Teal's like, well, that sucked. You're a jerk. You didn't even say bye. fine, I'll just leave then. Right? We have a very pointed moment here of, fine, I'll just leave then. And then she does it, right? And that's totally fine. We can use this moment to give her, to give Teal another little beat with Lacrimosa, who really hasn't featured in this chapter at all. So even if we just have her leaving and just have her saying the line to Lacrimosa, like, come on, buddy, I guess no one here wants to talk to us. Let's go hang out somewhere else, right? Anything. Just as long as she has a little moment with Lacrimosa, I think that's a great way to tie the chapter together. And bring up Lacrimosa again, because at the end of last chapter, like I mentioned, she's building this fondness for the moth. And we need that. We need that right now because A, it's missing. B, it's missing and that's important. C, it's missing and it's important. And then in like chapter 19 or something, she does something with Lacrimosa that's pretty, it's not an important beat, but it makes a lot more sense to have that beat if she's been ingratiating herself, if she's been developing this friendship with Lacrimosa. Whereas it stands right now, it's just like, okay, whatever. And even, I think this pays dividends later on too. Later on in the book, when it's much more apparent that she has a strong relationship. She does things. She's seen reacting and being like very protective of Lacrimosa. And as it stands right now in draft 1, it's like, okay, I get it, I guess. Like, you've been traveling together. But when you stop and think about it, it's like, okay, has Teal actually been doing much with Lacrimosa? Are they actually friends, or did they just have one moment? Did they just have that like token anime moment where they go, okay, we're friends now, so that in 5 episodes time, when the side character gets fridged, it's more impactful. Like, that's kind of how it feels. But I don't want that. No one wants that. That's lazy writing. We need to build a relationship here between Teal and Lacrimosa so that later on in the book, the events that transpire are more meaningful, so that later on in the book, the events that transpire afterwards are nice and good and make us feel happy and make us happy because of the things that happened before, right? You gotta have the bad times before you have the good times. I don't think that's how it works. And if anyone ever says that to you in real life, they're probably a conservative. Don't vote for them. You heard it here, folks. Take your political opinions from a box. Vote for me. Don't vote for me. I don't want to be in politics. I want to live my life alone in a cabin in the woods, ideally with a moth friend. Uh-oh, I'm reading chat. Oh no, I think I just, oh no. Just kidding. It's one bird. One bird voting for me won't be the end of the world. I believe I said alone in the woods. Hey, that's the end of chapter 15. We did it, right? That's like I said, it's a small chapter. Not a lot happens. Small notes. That only took us an hour and a half. Not too bad. Still a little time for doodles. Doodle for a little bit. But yeah, that was good. We talked about chapter 14, chapter 15, got that all squared away. I don't think I missed anything. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Yeah. So thanks for hanging tight, everyone. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I realize they were probably annoying. I still don't know how they happened, but they happened, didn't they? And kind of just out of my control. Why am I moving that? I don't need to move that. Sorry, I'm moving my mouse around here. Yeah, that's it for the bulk of the stream. We're going to move on to lighter affairs. I'm going to open up Psy. We're going to do some drawing. I'm going to answer any questions. And then we're going to hit the road. My hand slipped. Quite literally. It turns out that behind me, the void is always there. Surprise. Surprise. It's always the void. That's where I live. Literally my hand slipped on my trackpad. Sorry. I moved the thing. The one component of the stream that isn't locked. There, it's locked now. I'll never move it ever again. We're safe. I promise. I promise you will never see the void. At least I hope. I hope so. What else? What else? What else? I think that's it. Yeah, like I was saying, let me get Psy open. What? Hi-yo. Hi-yo. It's Psy. Hi-yo, it's Psy-yo. Hee. And then I'll go over here. Hello, it's me on the left. And then I'll hit this and get my pen out. And I'll close the other applications that we no longer need open. Nice. Closed. Heck yeah. Luckily, everything on this scene is locked too, so you won't see the void. Let's see here. Let's see. I gotta open the files. I gotta open some files and find the thing that I need to open. And then I need to open another. There it is. And then I need to find the right one. Find the right one. I think it was Woke. Yep, there it is. Woke.psi2. Perfect. Just how we left it. Do y'all remember this from a couple weeks ago? By a couple weeks, I mean last week when we drew all these. We drew the teal eating the hot dog. Which layer is it? I think it's this one. There she is. Hey, remember this? Teal eat the hot dog. That was a good one. That was a fun doodle. We're not going to work on that today. We're going to work on fixing up this monstrosity. Oops, I've got the text tool on. Pardon me. We're going to... I'll get there. We're going to fix this. We're going to fix that one. Why? I don't know. I don't have anything else to draw right now. That's a lie. I do actually, but I mean, I guess we could go work on it. It'll be a little bit of a spoiler. We've only got like 25 minutes here, so we'll just do some sketches. The other thing would be more like tightening up. Sorry, I took a drink of water. Yeah, other thing. I'm working on a thumbnail. Working on a thumbnail for my next project. If you like Splatoon, stay Splatooned. Because it's just Splatoon clips. It's taken a long time to edit. Oh, whoops! I put my pen away. Whoop. Oh, once again, I've duped myself. I duped myself. I don't think you can say that. I don't think you can say that, bestie. I don't think you can say hate crimes like that on the internet. I mean, you can do it on Twitter, that's for sure, but not on YouTube. I haven't drawn today, so let me just do some circles. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. There we go. Ew, you took a clip. Gross. Ew, a clip. Gross. We've got like 20 minutes. Hey, chat, if you have a question, ping me. I don't want to turn on Q&A mode. Okay? Thank you. I hope chat gets my message. So we're just going to draw. Oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. And we're gonna draw. Do 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 do. No music today because we're not going to be drawing very long, unfortunately. As mentioned, the stream is going to end at 5, so not really much of a point. Robin asks, are you wearing headphones right now? No. No, I'm not. Do you see my headphones on? I'm not wearing them. Which is funny, because I do still have desktop audio enabled. Let me turn that off. Typically I turn it off, but what happened today is I just closed Firefox instead of normally I mute the mic and then I close the tab and then I close whatever else is on Mozilla. But today I just closed Mozilla because I didn't need it open. So that is to say that I forgot the step where I mute my desktop audio. So either could have come up like an error, or I could have just, who knows? I could have put on music and you would have heard it through my mic. It would have been, wow, it would have been traumatizing. It would have been bad content. That's what it would have been. I think this leg needs to come out a little more. Hum. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Their hips are so like, what are you doing? What are you doing with those hips, boy? Do 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 do. That was this one. That was this stream. I made that joke. I think, anyways. What's with these boys and they hips? These boys, they hips don't lie. Oh, hey. Oh, wow, that's the first yawn. We've done pretty well today. It's like the stream's nearly over, and that's on the first yawn. You know what it is? I didn't have any caffeine this afternoon because I thought, boy, I don't want to have to get up and go to the washroom. Because, man, I hate doing that in the middle of the stream. It feels very rude. But maybe that's it. Maybe I'm not having caffeine crash. Maybe the trick is to live without caffeine. Yeah, as if that's going to happen. I could probably do it. I really don't drink that much caffeine. The problem with me, I don't drink a lot of caffeine, but I love caffeinated beverages. Like if they just remove the caffeine, I would still drink the beverages. Like I love coffee. I had pardon my ADD. I'm just going to keep talking, right? Because there's no music, so I might as well just have ADD and keep talking. I had a very nice coffee a few weeks ago. A shout out to 416 Coffee Company, 416 Brewing Company. I don't actually remember the name. Cafe in Grimsby, Ontario. I was on the road passing through Grimsby, and a friend and I stopped for a coffee. And we were initially going to a different cafe, but due to a power outage in the town, which was pretty crazy, that cafe was closed along with like a lot of other local businesses. But in the other direction, they still had power. So we head to this other cafe. Nice little spot. But we walk in and I'm looking around. I wanted something to drink. I wanted a coffee, ideally, because I was feeling pretty sleepy. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a menu. I couldn't find anything. I was really confused. And I end up just walking up to the counter, as one does. As one does when they're confused. I just walked up to the counter and found the nearest employee and said, hello. And they said, what do you want? And I said, I don't know. What do you have? And they politely instructed me to look up at the ceiling. And so I did. And lo and behold, that's where their menu was, on the ceiling. Crazy. That's crazy. Why are they doing that on the ceiling? Why would you put, no, like, okay, it wasn't hanging off the ceiling. It wasn't near the ceiling. It was on the ceiling, right? Like, what are you doing up there, buddy? Anyways, it was a pretty, like, I don't know, maybe the last couple cafes, quote unquote, I've gone to have been pretty tame. They've mostly just been like latte, cappuccino, but this place had the works. It had the oat milk, it had all the goods. Macchiatos, espressos, Americanos, doppios, they use the actual traditional terminology. And, that was cool. That was great. But I just wanted a coffee, so I just go, you do drip overs, you do pour overs. So yeah, I'll just have a pour over coffee. That sounds great. So they make me this pour over, and side anecdote, the machine they used to make the pour overs, wow, it was captivating. It was such a, like, it wasn't advanced technology, but it was crazy technology. It was crazy tech. They talk about future tech. This was crazy tech. Honestly, like, if they played that joke that well, whatever. I wouldn't mind coffee in the face if that's how good they burn me. But anyways, they make me a little pour over coffee, and it was good. That's where the story is headed. It was a really good coffee. It's probably I was thinking about it. I had my coffee this morning, and I was thinking, dang, this coffee is not as good as that coffee. And then I thought about how much I paid for that coffee, and I sure hope it was that good. Honestly, for how much I paid for it, it should have been gilded with gold or something. Christ, $5 for a coffee. Shout out to 416 Brewing Company. Could you make cheaper coffee, please? That stuff is not expensive. That stuff is not expensive. $5 for a coffee after tax? Honestly, I've thought about making pour over coffee. I wanted to get a V60, but the problem with the pour over coffee is you have to get the filters. And if you don't get the filters, then you have to buy one of those reusable ones. And then the reusable ones, I've heard, make your coffee gross. I feel like these proportions are kind of off. Anyways, I'm too much of a diehard, stubborn, old box, and I love my French press coffee. And it just doesn't, I don't know. The thing with the French press is you get a much more aromatic and a more mellow coffee. You get like a lot more of the subtler flavors out of a French press. And I don't know. Sometimes you just want that sharp. You just want the sharp, like, ooh, ooh, ah, ee. You want that spice on the tongue. Get what I'm saying? You hear me? I guess you do hear me, right? It's a stream. That's why you're here. Y'all mind if I do some lollygagging? So I wanted to move the hips up. There's another yawn. I'm fading fast, quick. 50 cc's of caffeine stat. They're not gonna make it. Doc, they're not gonna make it. I don't know why I'm at a hospital in Brooklyn. Wouldn't that be funny? All this time I've just lived in Brooklyn. Yeah, get out of here. That's not Brooklyn, that's just New York. I mean, Brooklyn's in New York, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know anything about Northeastern stereotypes. guess maybe it's more like a Boston. I don't know. What's a Boston accent like? Yo, what are you, freaking stupid? Right? Like the Scout, right? The Scout's from Boston, right? I don't know. How much longer? 10 minutes. I just gotta talk for 10 more minutes straight. Nothing but talking. I'm sure that's gonna go great. I'm sure everyone's gonna love that so much. Really should have put some music on. So, I mean, their chest really isn't... They're not slouching. I'm drawing Teal slouched. Yeah, I guess I should fix that. She shouldn't be slouching so much. Oh, excuse me. That was a gross sniffle. After my stream on Saturday, I'm just super self-conscious about my sniffles. And I know they haven't been as bad today as they have been in the past. But wow. They were bad on Saturday. The fact I was using a different mic didn't help. That mic is very sniffle forward. Do-do-do-do. You know, the thing about me being quiet is it's just easy. It's easy to cut out of the stream. Right? Like I know exactly what I got to cut out. Hey, I wasn't talking. I can cut that part out. Snip, snip. And there it's gone. I guess I can zoom in a bit. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. And then they have like the whistle. The whistle thing comes on. And it goes beep 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 boop 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 beep 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 boop boop boop. Right? Like that. And I know I've heard the song before, but I don't remember where it's from. It's from a game. It's from like a Mario game, I'm pretty sure. But couldn't tell you. Could not tell you there. Sorry. Germans in the audience, I apologize. Do 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 do. Been listening to a lot of bossa nova. What? That's from Animal Crossing? Which one? Oh, one of the KK songs? It's not just KK, but no, KK Bossa is the one that goes do 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 do. Is it KK Samba? Is it KK Mamba? Is it KK Calypso? Is it Tropical KK? Is it Aloha KK? Is it yeah, I kind of, when I said KK Calypso, that sounds right. Chat, leave a comment. Leave a comment if you know what Animal Crossing song I was singing. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more KK content, for more KK humming content. God, this looks so bad. This arm looks so garbage. This does not look good. This just does not look good. That is just not correct. Probably because I didn't warm up. Probably because I'm jumping into like too detailed of a drawing. And I didn't warm up, and it looks bad, and I'm bad by proxy, and so on and so forth. Sniff. Thank you. Thank you, nose. I'm starting to think, you know, maybe something's wrong with my nose. My sister just had a small surgery done for a, what's that called? What's it called? It's in your nose. A disjointed septum, I think that's what it's called. And yeah, I might look into that because genetics. And also, I'm sick of having a stupid nose. I'm sick of it. I hate my nose. See this little triangle? Gonna erase it. I'm gonna draw over it. You know, it would be a really good joke if the next stream, if I edited the model so that the nose was just like a big taped over X or something. That'd be funny. But I'm way too dumb to commit to a gag like that. Also, no one's here to laugh at it. It's just Robin here. It's just, hi Robin. It's just Robin here. Folks, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that I'm not sitting here alone with Robin week after week. No, I'm kidding, Robin. We have fun. We have fun here. We have fun here, right? We're all friends here. Robin, who is socially compelled to be here week after week to listen to my incessant ramblings, all because I made them a mod. I mean, I didn't like nepotism make them a mod. I would never do that. Yeah, that looks kind of bad. I really don't like this drawing. Yeah, it's basically 5 p.m. Maybe I can do like a redemption teal. Hold on, maybe I can do a redemption teal. Can I do like a quick 2-minute redemption teal? Real squinty. Got them like girl's last tour eyes. Gotta get the pointy nose. This looks equally as bad, not gonna lie. This looks just as bad as the thing I just drew. What the hell? There it is, folks. There's today's drawing. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. Hope you are as thrilled with this drawing as I am. Oops, I haven't had my pen up. No wonder I haven't been drawing properly. I forgot to have my pen up. I've been doing this with my mind again. I did the mind drawing again. My bad. We're done drawing. And that's the stream. We made it to 5 o'clock. We rambled a whole lot. We talked about chapters 14 and 15. We went over all of their faults. Chapter 14, honestly, there isn't a lot to fix outside of the poetry. Sorry, I meant that the other way around. The poetry is the part that's not going to be fixed. Outside of the poetry, there is a lot to fix. The poetry is probably the part that's staying the same. We got to do a lot more to ground Teal in reality as she traverses through chapter 14. That was the main thing, aside from that, she's got to appear a lot more lethargic, a lot more listless. When she confronts the poet, though, their back and forth is pretty good. And then towards the end of the chapter, we need to have a beat where she's talking to Lacrimosa. She's confiding in a bug, right? And she's going to be friends with the bug. Coming into chapter 15, we just want to ratchet up the horror a little bit. We want to keep it a short mention, but we want to tie in all the sort of creepy insanity elements together, bunch them up, and then have Teal accost the architect. She's got to be a little more annoying. We need to motivate her desire to be there. And for her to want to pester the architect. The architect needs to come off as a little more unhinged. Aside from that, the things they discuss is pretty fine. As Teal exits the scene, we should have another beat where Lacrimosa is introduced, right? Lacrimosa is who she talks to, and Teal should just have a little bit more of a petty exaunt from there. Well, Teal and Lacrimosa, right? They exaunt together. And aside from that, I think that's basically it. I think that's everything. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. We'll be back next week, next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're going to go over chapter 16. Chapter 16 is a little bigger. I think it's going to be its own episode. Don't quote me on that. You'll see in the stream title if it is. But we're going to go over chapter 16 for sure. Maybe 17, probably not. So that's next week, Tuesday, October the 15th. October the 15th at 3 p.m. There will not be a stream on Saturday this week because of Thanksgiving. I might do a very impromptu stream on Sunday, though. keep your eyes peeled. You'll see. Um, it'll be a very sudden thing, but yeah, we might play games. Might play Mario Kart. Might hang out and draw. Might just do some work. I don't know. Might just take a break for this week. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know you, content. You don't pay my bills yet. Honestly, maybe Monday, but Monday's cutting it close. Monday's too close to next Tuesday, so I was thinking Monday because that's technically when Thanksgiving is. But yeah, if there is a weekend stream, it'll be very sudden, so keep your eyes out for that. Also keep your eyes out for a video in the future. Honestly, it might take me a lot longer to edit it. Video editing is a very slow process. I'm relearning. There's a reason I'm doing these streams. It's because I hate editing videos. I hate it. It's so boring. It's the worst. If you're a video editor and you want to work for me for free, hit me up. I'm poor. Otherwise, back to what I was saying. Thanks for coming, folks. It's always good to discuss my notes on plain air like this. And I appreciate y'all listening. I hope you all have a good rest of your whatever. And let me think. I think that's everything. I think we covered it all. So I'll see you around. Bye-bye.